Deuteronomy chapter 5, spelling out the terms of the covenant. It starts, "Hear, O Israel." And the main point is that blessing is wrapped up in obedience, always. And obedience issues in blessing, and blessing is wrapped up in obedience. Covenant blessing is dependent upon covenant obedience. Covenant is an agreement, and it has a God side and a human side. And here, in chapter 5, those two sides meet. And it's such an amazing picture of the cross, you know. You've got these 5 commandments that go upwards, the way we deal with God, and 5 commandments that go to other human beings. And right in the centre is the covenant. The old covenant is set. And it uses the word cut. They don't say we will make a covenant, they say we will cut a covenant. And that has 2 meanings. One is the meaning that, obviously, in that society, they would, when they made an agreement, they would have to chisel it out of stone. So they have to cut the stone to make the covenant. But the second one is that every covenant was sealed in the cutting of flesh, which means like circumcision, and also the sacrifice of an animal. Without you know the sacrifice of an animal, there is no forgiveness. Without blood, there is no forgiveness. Without blood, there is no covenant. So the covenant was sealed in the cutting of flesh. Okay, it's associated with sacrifice. And this, Moses says, is your covenant. Now remember, he's talking in Deuteronomy about something that happened a long, long way back in Exodus chapter 20 at Sinai. But he says, the covenant is for the living, not for the dead. The one that was made in times past is now for you. This is for you. It's your covenant. And it was enacted face to face. And that doesn't mean what we would literally think of as face to face, because it says no one has seen God at any time. But it means in the immediacy of personal contact. You were there, God was there. You heard his voice speaking to you out of the fire. And he says it about 10 or 12 times. The God who speaks out of the fire. And that's pretty cool, isn't it, actually? And he said, I stood between the Lord and you at that time, because Israel couldn't bear the proximity of the contact with God. They didn't even dare put their foot on a mountain. They saw the thunder, they saw smoke, and they heard the voice of God speaking out of fire. It must have been an awesome, awesome occasion. So they asked Moses to be their intermediary, to be their mediator, to be the one that stands between them and God. So you've got an amazing number of similarities and parallels between Old Covenant and New Covenant, between the covenant that was enacted through Moses. Remember in John 1, the writer says, the law came through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And then you have the word thundering down at Sinai, and the word being made flesh and dwelling amongst us. It's the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. But both of them have this cross symbol, the cutting of the sacrificial victim at the centre of it. And without that sacrifice, there is no covenant. And then the same 2 things come out, blessing and obedience. Blessing for those who are obedient to Old and New Covenant. Okay, I stood between the Lord and you. And the Lord is God himself. And so it's very interesting that I was told recently Moses did get into the promised land. Isn't that interesting? Moses did get into the promised land on one occasion when he joined with Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. And there, as Jesus contemplated the sacrifice that he was going to give, he met again with Moses and with Elijah, symbols of the law and the prophets, meeting together with the mediator of a new and a better covenant, the Lord Jesus Christ. His blood shed for us once for all for the remission of sins. And this is the beginning point of the Old Covenant as it is with the New. The one who stands between, our high priest standing between God and man. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 5, 1 to 5. And because of who God is, it starts off with a question of the identity. So we've had the identity of mediator, now we've got the identity of God. The first commandment is this: no other gods before me. Before God demands anything of us, he declares his identity. I am, and in the English version it'll say something like, I am the Lord your God. And that's the Hebrew word, the sacred word for God, Yahweh, which in the old versions was translated Jehovah. It's like the personal name of God, but it also just is simply part of the present tense of the verb to be, so to speak. I am that I am, or I will be who I will be, or I was who I was. Or as Moffat called it, he is God, the eternal one, the one who always is. This is the designation of God, the God with whom we have to do. So this is where the Ten Commandments start, with an incredible picture of what covenant is, what covenant does, and who initiates covenant. Okay? And as time permits, we'll go into how that covenant is spelt out through the Ten Commandments. Okay, God bless you.